Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. We are here today with the fine folks from Private Communications Corporation, also known as Remote WorkForce ZTNA. We've got Kent Lawson with us. He is the CEO of Private Communications Corporation, and Fred, I think it's pronounced Kalber, right? And he is the Chief Technology Officer of Private Communications Corporation. Welcome, y'all.
Thank you, Scott. It's nice to be with you.
Awesome to be with you. I am excited to learn all about Private Communications Corp. But let's start with how's the weather and where are you located at, by the way?
Well, we're in the New York area, and unfortunately, well, actually, fortunately, because we've had quite a drought for the last several weeks, it's raining today, and so that's a good thing because we had quite a fire hazard around here.
I got you. Well, I'm glad that you guys are getting some wet weather. Then we actually we it was raining here for about 2 days, and it was pretty nasty. But I'm in South Carolina, and I'm happy to say it is 57 degrees and sunny, sunny, sunny. So we are excited about that. Well, Kent, tell us a little bit about Private Communications Corporation and what your motivations were for starting it and everything.
Well, thanks, Scott. Actually, Private Communications Corp started about 10 years ago, and we started in the consumer VPN business because what I was kind of looking around, and I'd actually been retired for a few years from a mainframe software company I had for a long time, and was kind of looking around for something to do, it occurred to me that unsecured Wi-Fi was one of the major risks that individuals have about identity theft and that sort of thing. And so we started with a consumer-oriented VPN. And after a bunch of years of that, about 2 3 years ago, we started to want to move into the SMB space, and we've been developing Remote WorkForce ZTNA. And I'm delighted to privileged to show to members of your group.
That's awesome. Well, for those in the back who don't know what ZTNA stands for, let us know what ZTNA stands for.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for pointing it out. So the stands for zero trust. Now
Okay.
almost everything is called zero trust these days. I have no doubts that I'm going to show up at some conference sometime, and there's going to be doorknobs advertised as zero trust, zero trust doorknobs. But real zero trust, the concept comes from ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, which
Okay.
is a new paradigm for the way that security is done in organizations, large scale organizations, and so on. And as you'll hear shortly, it's very well accepted by throughout the industry.
Yes, zero trust has certainly become a buzzword in the industry. I think a lot of IT pros certainly know what zero trust is. So, but no, that's great. Would love to dive in and learn more about, private communications and remote workforce, what you guys are doing.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Can I show you a bit of presentation, and then we'll do the demonstration?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'll do the presentation, and then my friend Fred will take over and do the demonstration for everybody.
Okay.
So I will take over the screen, if I may, Scott.
Yes, sir.
And so you should now be seeing our presentation.
There you go.
And let me put it into slideshow mode here. There we go. All right, so remote workforce ZTNA there are two things that have happened in the industry, excuse me, not in the industry, in the IT infrastructure, which are significant and which the product is intending to address. One is the rise of remote workers, which obviously is a significant part of the environment these days, and hybrid working is not going away. And the second thing is the rise of distributed networks, in AWS, Azure, and so on, and SaaS apps. And because of those two things, the old paradigm, the old approach of having a firewall wrapped around a network and a VPN to get into the firewall, it just doesn't. It's no longer appropriate. Now, ZTNA, as I said, has been the concept's been around a little over 10 years, something like that, maybe 15 years. But most of the ZTNA products are large and designed for large-scale enterprises. We built one, we right-sized it for MSPs and for SMBs, and built this product for MSPs.
Okay, wonderful.
So if I can, let me describe in really kind of dense, concise terminology here what it is. First of all, it's built-in price for SMBs, and we're definitely MSP friendly. So the product is simple, and I do want to emphasize that, and I think you'll see that in the demo. It's reliable, and it's a remote access. It's a remote access solution to protect company data in the age of hybrid work. And to your members and our friends in the IT Business Owners Group, you can make real money doing it.
Awesome.
So, again, the first thing that we are addressing is hybrid work environments. That means that we need to provide easy, and I do emphasize easy, secure access to IT resources. The old VPNs were notoriously difficult to use, and we've made this because our heritage is from a consumer-oriented VPN. We've made this very simple to use. We provide secure encrypted communications end to end, and you'll see that even includes SaaS apps, by the way. We can apply the same zero trust concepts and the same zero trust technology, whether they're on premises, they're traveling, or they're working from home.
Very nice.
We also added because when people are working away from the office, if they're working in the office, you kind of know what when they show up and when they take their lunch breaks and that sort of thing. That's all well and good. You don't really have that kind of exposure when they're working remotely. And we wanted to build in some management reporting so that you can you kind of want to know what's going on when somebody's online and so on. So we build them some nice management reporting to address that.
Nice.
So with the networks are so complex these days. They can be LANs, they can be multiple LANs, of course. They can be cloud-based on AWS, Azure, or GCP. They can be SaaS apps, and we need to. And what Remote WorkForce does is it provides direct access to all those networks, direct to each of them, I should say, with end-to-end encryption. And we have, and quite uniquely, we have one of the problems with implementing a ZTNA is that you often don't the MSP or the SMB does not necessarily know all of the resources that might be being used in their organization. So we have discovery mode when the product is implemented at a company, it runs for a while. You can run for 2-3 weeks, something like that, and it will catalog automatically all the resources that the users are accessing during that time, so that you can discover what's often called the hidden IT resources. And then once all the resources have been identified, then we switch to operating mode. We assign permissions to those resources. This resource is a finance app, so it can only be accessed by a finance group. This resource is a marketing group, is a marketing app, and therefore can only be accessed by the marketing group, and so on. And you'll see that that's quite easy to do when you see the demo. And then the users, one of the things that was important is that a product like this is simply not going to be successful or accepted if it's difficult for the users to use. So we've even provided for the users a nice little menu, which we'll show you, which shows the authorized resources that they can access wherever they are. And again, that can be they're in the office, they're at home, or on the road.
Very nice.
So I've said at the beginning that it's built for MSPs and SMBs. What does that mean? It means for the MSPs that it's very easy to implement. We have an MSP portal which allows for the accounts to be fully managed or co-managed, or self-managed. You may have some accounts that want to do things on their own, and they can do so, or you can keep full control over them with fully as fully managed. It is very easy for the technicians to administer with that multi-tenant portal that you'll see in the demo. And it's also very easy for the client, for the customer, and for their employees to use. There's a simple one-click access to authorized resources wherever they are, whether they're on the LAN, cloud-based, or SaaS apps. It's also affordable. It's affordable to the companies. We provide high margins to the MSPs, and there are no contracts, there are no minimums, and no fixed costs. And we're channel only, so we don't compete with you. We want to work, we want to support you, and we want you to be successful with our product.
Very nice.
So there's, as I sort of alluded to at the beginning, there's an awful lot of buzzing about zero trust. This is a true ZTNA implementation, true ZTNA. There are indeed formal standards for ZTNA from NHTSA, from the Cloud Security Alliance, and others. There's an organization over in the UK, I forget its name, which has standards as well. And so you can get a huge document that with all these standards, but the concepts come out as being quite simple. There are about 3 principles in my view about what ZTNA is all about. First of all, access to every IT resource must be specifically authorized. Secondly, there are no other resources on the network can even be visible. So if you're in the marketing department, you cannot even see the finance apps. And what you can't see, you can't hack, after all. And then third, it's like having the summary that I have is it's like having a firewall around each individual resource. We know what a firewall is around a network, but this brings it down to the firewall around each individual resource. So it is as I indicated earlier, it's widely accepted as a new paradigm for how IT security is and will be done. It's endorsed by Gartner and Forrester. It's widely accepted by large-scale enterprises. There's literally even a presidential directive saying that government agencies must move towards ZTNA. Now it's tough for them because they've got a lot of complexity, and the end of the government. I'm sorry, there's a little political, but at any rate, but nevertheless, the ZTNA concept is very definitely accepted as being the way that IT security should be provided. And there are, of course, a number of successful products like Zscaler is probably the best known, and they enable ZTNA, but they're built for large companies and they're way overkill for SMBs. So the market opportunities is this: SMBs know that they're at risk, and they need a solution, and it's a wide open market. Nothing else is in the market like remote workforce. So here's how it works. So this is going to be, I'm going to show you the classic diagram for ZTNA from the Cloud Security Alliance and so on. So it starts with, we can start with the existing infrastructure, which is where you've got a firewall around a network and a bunch of resources behind it. Now that firewall can be I mean that network can be a LAN, legacy LAN, or it can be out in AWS or Azure or whatever. The same principles apply. It's a network after all. And so that's what we've got to protect. Starting at the other end. Oh, and the way what we do is literally the only technical step necessary in order to implement remote workforce is to implement a gateway on each network. And the gateway is a small piece of software that we generate specifically for that network and specifically for that company. So it knows who it belongs to, and you'll see in the demonstration that it makes life very simple for the implementation.
So it's a software gateway,
It's a software,
not a hardware. Okay.
It's a software gateway.
No hardware to implement.
We have no hardware, and therefore we don't have any fixed costs.
Okay.
looking at it, starting at the other end, let's think about a user who's sitting on a device, and he's going to connect to our VPN server. Now, when he connects, he's got to be authorized, not with a username and an email address and password, of course, but also we keep very, very tight control over the devices. So it's not just the user that is authorized at this point; it's also the device that is authorized and authenticated. So before he gets anywhere close to your firewall and your resources and so on, we've made sure that that user is indeed authorized to access the resources for that company.
Nice.
That is managed by what we call the controller, which is in the cloud. Then we manage that, of course. And when the user makes a request on his device, it goes to our VPN server, and it goes to the controller, and the controller consults with rules that have been established by the company, or by either the MSP or the company itself. And if the user is authorized to access those resources, the controller says to the gateway, "Hey, I've got somebody that wants to access resources that are on your network, someplace behind your firewall." And let me make a point here that the controller and the gateway are always in constant communication, and the gateway has made an outbound communication through the firewall. So because of that, actually, the firewall can be. Let me go one step further, and then I'll finish that thought. So the controller tells the gateway, "Hey, I've got somebody who wants to access your resource," and the gateway then establishes a connection from itself out to the VPN server that user happens to be connected to. We have about 50 server locations around the world, and so both of those connections from the gateway are outbound connections, which means that theoretically that the firewall can be completely closed down for all inbound connections, which very much increases the security, therefore.
Absolutely.
So again, this is the classic ZTNA diagram. I've simplified it a little bit from all the gobbledygook that they put in the standards diagram in the standards documents, but that's what it's all about. By the way, any questions? If anybody has any questions about this, this is a pretty key concept. So, any questions from the crowd here?
Not yet.
All right. So we'll now go into the demonstration, and I'll turn it over to my friend Fred. And what we will show you, Fred will show you how we define networks, and you'll see how that works with the gateway. We will go through the discovery process and show you how we discover resources, and then we'll apply ZTNA permissions to those resources, and then we'll show how a user gets a menu of the available resources, but of course only those resources that he's allowed to see. Perfect. So with that, I will
thank you. And I'm just going to share my screen.
Yeah, but I have to unshare first. Stop share.
Yes.
That is up there. Okay, there you go. All right, Fred. So take it away, Fred.
Thank you. Okay, everybody should be able to see my screen right now. And so what I've done is I've logged into the Remote WorkForce admin interface as an MSP, right? As if I was one of you. So you would see a dashboard like this. And the first thing that you'll see here is that the list of client companies that you've already defined in your dashboard. And as Kent emphasized a few times, what we've tried to do is to make the interface as simple and easy for you to use as possible and as self-explanatory as possible. So if I wanted to add a new client, I would simply click on Add a New Company. And there's some details to fill out, like company name, time zone, but they're basic levels of detail. From an account management standpoint, there are different kinds of account that you can establish a client as. Kent is going to get into a little bit more of the differentiation between that later. But for the purposes of our conversation right now, we're going to focus on adding a ZTNA account. You can set how much you're going to charge that user. You can also indicate whether the account is co-managed or not. There's several different options here. So essentially all this really means is how much administrative control do you want your client to have in administering the ZTNA? You can have full control, which would be fully managed, or for the purpose of this particular default setting, it's co-managed, meaning that you would share administrative responsibilities with the client. And again, that's totally at your discretion. The other thing that you get to set is this BYOD setting for company-owned devices. So you can indicate whether the devices that your client's users are using are company-owned, or are they bringing their own device to work. And really, what that influences is the amount of discretion they have in turning the ZTNA on and off. So if they bring their own devices to work, then essentially they're going to be encouraged to run the ZTNA during the course of their work hours, but they may want to turn that off, during their off hours. They don't have to, but they may want to. So that's what that refers to. The other thing I'd like to show you is with respect to, well, let me jump. So that's how you would set up a new company. For the purposes of time, I'm going to just jump into a demo company that we've set up to show you a few additional features. So we have here a number of users that are set up for the company. Again, it's very easy to set up a user. You simply can click on Add New User, just fill out the username, what group they're a part of. So now this is an important feature of the platform because you can allocate a user to one or more groups that basically dictate their permissions in terms of what kind of resources they have access to. And then, of course, you set their email address, their password, and their mobile phone number. So all very straightforward. What I'd like to also show you, in addition to the user settings, are just some of the other settings that are relevant at a client company level. So we're going to take a look at the settings for demo company. And you can see here that, the account management features are very similar to what I showed you a moment ago when we're adding a new user. The pricing's a little bit different for this company. Something that I wanted to just call out here is the operating mode. So one of the what operating mode, there's two values for operating mode, either discover mode or an operating mode. So a ZTNA, as Kent described, is all about controlling access to resources, but we don't want you to have to manually go and define all those resources. So when you set up a new client company, you can actually configure that company to operate in discovery mode for a little while, so that as the users are going about the normal course of their business and interacting with the assets in the enterprise, the ZTNA platform is actually recording those interactions and cataloging those assets. So we are dynamically creating a catalog of assets for you without you having to manually go in and identify and add all of those. So that's an important facet of this, and this operating mode works in concert with the gateway software that Kent talked about. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So something else that's useful at the company level is that you can customize the communication that your client companies receive as they add users to the ZTNA. So there's a series of emails that you can see here. We have 3 emails set up for this particular demo company. The first one is a welcome email explaining what the ZTNA is all about, and reinforcing the company's commitment to security and explaining how to use the ZTNA. The second email in the series is focused on getting the user to register their first device. Now, the platform takes device identification and authentication very seriously. And this is one of the mechanisms that starts that ball rolling. So they'll receive an email and they're able to essentially download their ZTNA client onto their computer from that email. And we have a wide variety of client platforms that are supported to facilitate that, both in terms of desktop, laptop, and mobile devices. But these are all templates. So you have full control over what that template looks like for that particular client. Obviously, clients may want to tailor that based upon their communication style. What I'd also like to show you is how the networks might be set up within a company. So we're going to take a look at that for this demo company. Now, within any enterprise, assets, resources lie within given networks, and there's both internal networks and external networks. And so you can see a list of networks that are relevant for this demo company. It's very simple to add a network. So we just simply put in a network name. I'm just going to call it test 1121 for this particular test. What kind of network is it? Is it a LAN, an internal network, or is it an external network through one of these cloud providers? And then Kent mentioned that a key part of our platform's architecture is gateway software, a software gateway that gets installed on a server within the network that we're setting up. And so by virtue of us defining that network right here, when we click save, what's going to happen is we're going to get instructions about how to download that piece of gateway software for the network that we just defined and how to install it for that network. And that's one of the foundational parts of setting up a client for to operate within the ZTNA.
And if I may,
Now,
Fred, excuse me, Fred, I just want to point out that this is, again, literally the only technical step in the entire process is installing that gateway. And the installation of the gateway is, if it's a Windows device, it's just like installing any other piece of software on a Windows device. If it's a Linux device, it's just like installing any other piece of software on Linux. So and everything else that you see, I just want to point out, everything else you see, is very, very easy to do. It can be done by a non-technical user, a non-technical person.
Seems
thank you,
pretty
Ken.
easy so far.
Well, glad to hear you say that. So we're going to take a look at some of the networks that are defined for this demo company. So let's take a look at headquarters LAN. So again, one of the things that's important is that the network, the gateway software, it provided a lot of these technical details. So all we had to do was install the gateway software within the network, and then it picked up on these network details. So to Kent's point, we've tried to minimize the technical overhead for you to have to worry about to get things set up and running. So within a network, there are resources. And in this particular case, we have these resources, which I'm going to just delete these because these were part of a previous demo, just so they don't clutter the list. We have 3 resources currently defined for this particular network. Let's take a look at one of them. Let's take a look at the thermostat resource. So you can get a sense here for how resources are defined within the system. So it has a resource name, it has a resource type. There's a bunch of different types, from IoT device to website to application to SaaS platform. So really a lot of versatility in terms of the types of assets and resources that you're going to want to restrict access to. The address of that resource, IP address of that resource, and then of course where the ZTNA concept really comes together is the concept of permission. And so you can see here that for this particular resource, we can assign what permission group should be able to access it. Now, it could be all, or we could restrict it to a specific group. Of course, in this case, the thermostat, of course, is only controlled by the CEO because that's only appropriate. The ultimate power resides over all temperature. So we've tried to make it very simple to define the networks, define resources, and then of course once you have those defined and you have activity, in terms on your networks and in terms of your resources, you're going to want to see what's going on. I just wanted to show you a couple of things from that perspective. So we have a feature called filters, and what we've been talking about thus far is essentially having your users through the ZTNA architecture be given permission or restricted from accessing certain assets. We haven't necessarily talked about content, but we do have content filtering capabilities within the platform. So we do offer malware filtering. We also offer specific blocking of specific domains. There's usually a wide list of domains that have offensive content or other kinds of content that you just want to block. We support all of that within the platform. We also have other kinds of reporting that we can offer to you. So from an activity standpoint, we offer 4 different kinds of insight into what's going on within your enterprise. We have alerts, network activity, the resources that are accessed, and user activity. Let's take a look at 1 or 2 of these. So you can see here that here's a log in terms of activity that's been going on in the network. So this is showing you new users have been registered within your enterprise, or perhaps someone tried to log into a particular system with a particular kind of account. So this is all here for your review. One of the things that we would love feedback on, because what we're working on is integrating this with third-party alerting systems as well. If you have an alerting system of choice, we'd love to hear more about that from you. In addition, you can also look at network activity and see what's going on across all of your networks that were defined for this particular enterprise, and just get a relative sense of what's going on there. I won't go into the other reports because we're working on a demo account right now, so there won't be all that much activity to see. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit now. And so what we've been talking about thus far has been an administrator's view. So let's take a look for a moment at what a user might see. I'm going to pull up my client here. Can you see the client interface, or I might have to share that explicitly?
We can only see where it says network activity.
Okay, then I'm going to stop share. So we might have to juggle a little bit here. Okay, so what you're looking at now, you should see a screen that says encrypted, right in the center. What this is a view of is the client that sits upon the end user's device. So the end user, has remember I mentioned earlier that when you enroll a user onto the platform, they're going to receive an email, and that email is going to prompt them to download a client onto the device that's being registered. So once they've done that and they've activated that, this is what they will see. So this is the ZTNA, Remote WorkForce ZTNA client. So one of the things it immediately tells you is you're secure, right? Your connection is secured and it's being encrypted. It gives you some additional information about the local network that you're running on, the location that you're running on, the type of encryption that's being running, that is protecting your communications, as well as how long you've been connected. There are other features that you can access via this menu. For example, taking a look at your account. So this account, that basically as an end user, this matches what I have been setting up and showing you from the admin side of I'm part of demo company. Here's my user email, and here's my device ID. Tells me how many devices I have authorized. I'm authorized to to actually enroll up to 5 devices.
Excuse me, Fred. You're still showing the status screen, the first one that says encrypted. So
okay. It's not the screen sharing is not the screen sharing is not flipping to that to each screen. So I'll just describe that. And so there's also help available within the client as well. So the important thing is that the end user has this client that is really helping to enforce both encryption as well as the permissions in terms of what kind of access that they can get access to. So I'm going to flip the sharing one more time.
While you're doing that, I might point out that it wasn't too clear in that, but since this is a BYOD company, Fred could have exited from the encryption from the client or turned off the encryption, but that's only because this is a BYOD environment.
So you should be able to see you should be able to see the resource screen again. Yes. So because so I mentioned earlier the importance of operating mode, and so I should say discovery mode and operating mode. So right now, this demo company, is in discover mode, which means it's during a phase where we're allowing the platform to observe the normal activity of end users, to discover what assets are relevant to them and to catalog them. And so what I'm going to do, rather than move back and forth in terms of the browser sharing, what I'm going to do in another browser window is I'm going to, as an end user, I am going to type in access to a couple of different websites. So let's say testwebsite1.com. And I'm seeing
Fred, you're still showing demo company.
Yeah, it's a little tricky with the screen share, the way the screen share is working, but I'm going to flip over here. Okay. So you can see here, I've typed in testwebsite1.com in a different browser, and I've accessed that very simple sample website. Now I'm going to go through a series of doing that with a couple of different websites. So let me try testwebsite2.com. Okay, got there. Testwebsite3.com. Testwebsite4.com. Now, what's happening, right, as I'm going through this, because I'm connected to the ZTNA through the client software that I'm running on my computer as an end user, it's basically keeping track of the resources that I'm trying to access, and it's communicating with the back end of the ZTNA platform, and it's keeping track of these and identifying and cataloging them. So if I jump back to the resource to the
and again, while you're switching screens, Fred, let me point out that Fred did not have to say where any of those resources were. What was happening at that point for each of those networks, there are 5 different networks that we have set up for a good old demo company, and for each of those networks, there's a gateway installed. And we have the gate, and we have cataloged and the gateway has told us what the IP address is of the network, as well as the IP address of the DNS settings. And so it has looked through the DNS of each of those 5 networks until it found each individual resource, and then it displayed it. So it did it going through the search of each network until it found it, and then it displayed it. And okay, so back to you, Fred.
So I've refreshed the screen, and you can see that it is refreshed the resources that I was trying to access on the list of resources that are defined for the company. So once I've gone through this discovery process and kind of organically collected the resources, the thing that I want to do is I want to go back to my company. And I essentially want to go to the settings, and I want to say, okay, I'm done cataloging resources. Now I'm in production. And so I'm going to switch from discovery mode to operating mode. And then I'm going to go down here and save that. And so then at that point in time, all of the networks, all of the resources, all of the end user permissions that I have put into effect are now being enforced. While the enterprise is in discovery mode, the permissions are not being enforced because we're trying to learn what the normal usage patterns are of the organization. But once we flip the company into operating mode, the ZTNA is then enforced. So that's a very high-level demo of the simple way that you can administer the ZTNA using our platform. I'm going to turn things back over to Kent, who's going to share a little more information with you.
All right, so let me go share my screen. And so before I go on, any questions anybody's got about what we've seen so far?
No questions yet, but I did want to compliment you on such a clean and logical system. I mean, as Fred was going through everything, it all made sense. It was very well laid out. So congrats on that. It's very clean and logical.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, Scott, a great deal, particularly you having seen so many of these things. So that's great. So we didn't take one of the things we could have gone a little bit further and shown that the users then gets a menu of their available resources, but only the ones that they're allowed to access to. So now we have, as Fred mentioned, we have 3 levels of service depending on what your company needs. We have the basic VPN, which basically just encrypts all communications, and has a few extra features such as malware filtering and recording time on and off the network. And if you have a simple if one of your clients has a simple infrastructure, that may be all they need. If they have multiple networks, which is probably the case in most of the companies, I would think, then you want at least the enhanced VPN, which provides direct access to all company networks. And we also then add the capability of providing detailed reports of the users on online activities in the enhanced VPN. And for the full ZTNA, we enforce the ZTNA permissions. And we also keep a list of the specific IT resources that users access. So we've got that stepping stone function of different types of different levels of service, and with appropriately different price points for each one of them. Still pretty low. Now, as I said, we built this for MSPs, and let me that's not supposed to be up there yet. Sorry about that. So a little bug in the demo. All right, so we will invite the members of the IT Business Owners Group to install it and test it internally by January. If you do so, then we will provide discounted pricing for all companies that you enroll in. During the life of during your life, I guess, the lifetime of our relationship, where for example, the full ZTNA we will charge you only $5 for a product that should retail for $15. That's a pretty good margin.
I'll say.
And again, we have no minimums, no contracts, and no fixed costs. And we have no charge for internal use.
Nice.
We have generous volume discounts based on the total number of seats that your customers use. And there's a free 30-day trial for your customers. And one more thing, there's a $300 bonus for when your first customer gets started.
Nice.
So
can't beat that.
Now, oh, see that now we're supposed to start. See that now it's working right. Okay. So so now it's supposed to. It just showed you how to get started. Is shoot me an email. There's my email address, klawson at privatecommunicationscorp.com, and we will set up your team. You can test it internally. We'll give you white glove support, and then find one of your customers that would like to enhance their security, and we'll work together with you on that.
Sounds perfect. Well, Kent, thank you so much for your time today and going over Remote WorkForce and Private Communications Corp. We really appreciate it, and we'll have to do this again. I see we don't have any comments, so is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap it up?
Just if you want to get a hold of us, feel free to take a look at our website, Remote WorkForce ZTNA. Our company's website is Private Communications Corp. If you want to see our other products, like our consumer product and so on. And you can email me at klawson or our marketing VP who's on the call here, Jennifer Prager.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. I'm excited to dive in and get started. So
Perfect.
I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day. Oh, and one more thing, make sure if you are watching and you reach out to the folks here at Remote WorkForce and Private Communications, let them know that you heard about their product from Scott at IT Business Owners Group. So
definitely. And thank you very much, Scott. Thanks
awesome.
to you and also to our attendees.
No problem.
Thank you,
Always
Scott.
a pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.